to another episode of the Parent Network podcast. As you already know, I am your host, Ashley Aites. And today I am joined here with an amazing mother, woman, entrepreneur, all of the many hats that she wears, Dominique Haughton. And I'm going to let her talk to y'all in a bit, but I just want to kind of introduce her to you all because that's what we do here when we have guests on the Parent Network podcast. She is a woman who empowers women in leadership to unlock their true identity and burst through in natural confidence. She is a mom of three boys, so she is a boy mom. Shout out to all of the boy moms because mighty lamb, it is not easy, but it's worth it. So that's just a little bit about Dominique. As you heard on the intro, you can follow her, find her on social media platforms, but I want to bring our guest in. She is going to talk to us about who she is. So she's going to introduce herself. Dominique, welcome to the Parent Network podcast. Go on ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
Hello, everyone. I am Dominique Haughton from the Boo Boo, from Louisiana. I am the owner of Confidence Academy, where I function as a mental health consultant and also a confidence development coach. I am also a licensed counselor, and as Ashley stated, a boy mom of three boys. They're all 5 years apart, y'all. So guess what? I have to teach myself confidence building, not just everybody else.
That boy mom lifestyle is it's amazing. It's amazing. I really feel like I can tell now like who has just all boys and who have boys and girls are all girls. It's just this aura, this stance, this being that moms have when they have all boys versus all girls or mixed kids. So thank you so much, Dominique, for just introducing yourself, being on today's podcast. So we're going to jump right into the conversation on today. We just want to kind of just chat around all things motherhood, all things womanhood, touch on a little bit of mental health because you are heavy knowledgeable in that field. And I want the people to just be able to tap into a little bit of the knowledge that you have. So let's just start off with the motherhood journey. Talk to us about what that has looked like for you. And here's one question that I want you to kind of touch on. If you feel like in your childhood, what you received has been beneficial to your parenting journey, or do you just feel like you throwing the whole thing in the trash can? You're starting over, grassroots, learning, reparenting, all the things. Talk to us.
Girl, first of all, um, I'm glad you want me to touch on that. It's because of my childhood experience that I take so much joy in being an actual parent. I love being a mom. I don't care how ghetto mom life is. I am honored to be a mother. And the reason why I'm honored to be a mother is because I had a traumatic childhood. It was dysfunctional. I was raised by my great aunt, two of my great aunts, and my uncle. And my mom wasn't around. She would come around when she felt like it. And I didn't meet my biological father until I was 23 years old. Now, my mom's best friend, he stepped in as my father, and he cared for me throughout my life. But it was, I always felt like I didn't fit in growing up, and I was made to fit like I didn't fit in. My family never let me not know that I was like them. I was definitely always set apart. And so I understood what a healthy childhood looked like because two of my best friends that I grew up with, they had both their parents, and I spent a lot of time at their houses, and I got to see how their parents parented them, and I also got to see what it was like to be like basically a normal child. And so I was able to take pieces from what I saw so I can understand what normal was or normal childhood was. And so when I found out I was pregnant in 2012, I was intimidated at first, but then I had to restructure my mind. And this was way before, well, no, I was a counselor at the time. I was about to say this was way before counseling. I had to restructure my brain around parenting and around me failing as a parent. And I had to think positive, but I have debunked everything that I've debunked everything that I have personally experienced. I threw it completely out of the window, and I honestly just take it one day at a time. I have 3 kids, and from what I hear from others, I'm doing an amazing job. And so I don't take that praise lightly because I'm also having to reparent my inner child. So I think because I'm doing that along with parenting, I think that's what's making me successful in a moment. And I like it. It's different because I'm having to reparent a little girl, also while parenting 3 boys. But I like it
I love that you said I like it because
too.
it's a journey. It is such a journey when, as you said, what we experience in our own family dynamic versus, and I honestly think that this is the grace and the mercy of God when He
Hmm.
allows us to have glimpses of what He's always designed for it to be. And so
Yeah.
He'll place us in certain environments that allow for that to happen. And then we have to go back to our own natural environment, but we understand and know, hey, it's not supposed to be like this.
Yeah.
And, I think that sometimes when we are functioning in the role of motherhood, if we're not careful, as you said, some of those voices, some of those memory replays will resurface to try to cause for us to feel like, oh, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. Or we will give them what we received, knowing good and well that that was not the best. And so it is important. One of the things that you said was to debunk those
Hmm.
things, to really cast down those thoughts in the moment.
Hmm.
And I am a big, big advocate for having those conversations with your kids, like apologize. You know what I'm saying? When you have a
Yeah.
blow up
Yeah.
because you were having a bad day or you were frustrated or whatever it is, it's not the child's fault. Quick story.
Right.
This week, I was very tired. I was very tired. And my youngest son, Caleb, he told me, I said something to him, but I was very sharp and I was very short and I felt it. It wasn't disrespectful, but it was just like, I'm gonna need you to let's go, get to the point, I'm tired. And he tells me, it's not my fault that you're tired and you're frustrated. And now here's the thing. I didn't take offense to that because that's accountability. If we
But it
are
caught
teach It caught me off guard, but then it doesn't catch me off guard because honestly, sometimes I don't even know what's going to come out of Caleb's mouth because, the way that he's being raised is very different from how I was raised. That would have been deemed as disrespect.
disrespect. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? In our generation with our parents, that would have been deemed as disrespect. And it's not, it's actually accountability because if I want the child to speak to me a certain type of way, I cannot think because I'm authoritative that I
Yeah.
have the right to do that to them. And a lot of people don't like that gospel of accountability, and allowing your
Absolutely.
children to be accountable to you. But it's a thing, and we'll get more into that later on in the episode. But talk to us about some of just your journey in motherhood, the ups, the downs, the ooh, mm, all of that.
Okay, so I started off parenting great. And the reason why I'm going to say that is because I was already out of college and I was already in my career. So when I had my first son, I didn't have any financial struggles. Um, so parenting was very fun. I had a lot of fun with my first son. And he's 10 years old now. We had a lot of fun. We would do a lot of things. We would go a lot of places because I wasn't the average single mom that had to struggle financially. But then I had child number two in 2018. I was okay until the pandemic happened. And since I lost everything, I lost everything. I was highly impacted by it. And so for me, because it took me a long time to get back on my feet, for me, um, that was a direct impact on parenting mentally for me, emotionally for me, because in my mind, all I can think of was I failed my kids because I couldn't keep a roof over their heads, And so I compared my parenting to my ability to provide. And it took me a very long time to understand that me physically providing is only a portion of what a mother is to her sons or to her children. But it once again, it took me a long time to get on my feet, but it took me a very long time to understand that concept, that is more to it than just providing stability. There's the spiritual aspect, because am I nurturing their gifts? Am I making sure that they have a relationship with God? Am I pouring myself into them to assist them in evolving mentally and emotionally, especially because I'm a licensed therapist and I understand the ins and outs of mental health. It's more to it than that. And I had to understand that despite losing everything, because I had no control of the situation, it was the pandemic, that it did not strip me of being an amazing parent. And so now, here on the flip side, I'm back. You know, everything is on the up and up again. And I sit back and I observe both of my because the two older ones, I observe them, and I ask questions, and we sit down. We joke. I might throw like questions in there about our season of loss, just to see where they are, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, about that situation that occurred to us. And you know what I realized? I raised some resilient kids, because they weren't even impacted by that the way I thought they were. They didn't. They're kids, and they just went along for the ride.
It's
As
us.
long with mom, yeah, as long as they were with mom, they were okay. And so me, not being able to provide financially and having to pull on community for assistance, I was just like, Dominique, you tied your confidence to what you had in the natural. You
Mhm.
didn't even pay attention to the spiritual, emotional, and mental aspects of who you were. You tied your entire worth to things that you had, and once you lost it, you had to remember the other aspects of who you are. The same way with my parenting. That's all I could do at the time, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally, because the natural, the physical was out. So it's just, I just got to see myself. I got to see my kids from a different perspective. And although that was the most challenging time of my life, it brought me and my kids closer. Not that we weren't closer before, but it's a different type of strength that you have to muster up when you literally lose everything and you're not the only person that you have to care for.
Ooh. It's a few things that you said in there that I want to kind of just touch on. And you said you compared your parenting to your ability to be able to provide. And I think so many times in this journey of parenting, we come into it with this preconceived notion, this idea that it's supposed to look this way. And then when life starts lifing and things begin to happen, we automatically say, I'm no good or I'm not good because this level failed or this area of my life is challenging. And one of the things
Yeah.
that I talk to both of my sons about is that as a human being, you're not a failure. Now you'll enter into situations where the situations may fail, and then you have to
Right.
learn how to pivot. What did you learn in that situation? And so when you said that, you have the conversations and you ask them certain questions and you're like, okay, where's their mind? They showed you that, okay, as long as I'm with you, I'm safe. It for me, it goes back to the whole trust versus mistrust, the nurture and the nature
Right.
component where it's like, even though my environment may be chaotic around me, if I'm being poured into, if my love cup is being filled, if I'm being acknowledged as, the son or the daughter of my parent, then the external factors around me, they're not going to be as great because the person who is for me, raising me, with me, is protecting me. And so I love that you notice that, okay, listen, this is a time to build resiliency, not just within the children, but within myself, because you said now that you're on the other side of it, everything is on the up and up. And I feel like
Mhm.
when we go through these journeys and these pockets, excuse me, in our parenting, it also gives us wisdom. So kind of share with us what wisdom you received in this pocket. Because I literally think that parenting is a whole relationship and we are going to have highs, lows, valleys, peaks, all of the things, pockets in this
Mhm.
parenting journey that show and reveal to us either what's within us, whether it's positive or negative, and
Mhm.
how we're to heal or how to use that for our good. So kind of talk to us about the wisdom that you received in that particular pocket of parenthood.
It's so funny that you mentioned nature versus nurture. That's Eric Erickson. And so that is within the developmental stages. And so that's something I talk about a lot, the developmental stages. Um, it is what occurs in between the ages of 1 to 5. And so everything you've seen, everything you've heard, everything you've experienced, by the time you make it to age 6, your belief system and your identity is already in place from what happened between the ages of 1 to 5. And that's also through that nature versus nurture time frame. And so the wisdom that I gained, which helped me to tap into my field, was basically me understanding that because I took the time between the ages of 1 to 5, that with one of them, with my oldest son, I did so much work with him in between the ages of 1 to 5, so he was okay. At the time I had a 2-year old, and so I still was in the developmental stages of nurturing and helping him to identify who he is as an individual. So it I can see now that I didn't miss a step with helping them to identify who they are. I did not miss a step. And so, even though I thought I was in my head about not being able to provide for them physically, I still did the work, like I said, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally with them. So now, when I ask questions on the other side, because we're okay now, the wisdom that I've gained from them was, you were never a horrible parent. You were never a horrible parent. You still were an amazing mother, and you have some dope kids, even in the midst of all types of adversity, because we experienced a lot of highs, more lows than highs. I'm going to be honest with you. We experienced more lows than highs. And I felt the I felt the heat. Let's say I felt the fire associated with all of that. And I thought that my kids felt the fire associated with all of that. But the wisdom that I've gained was, you really were a mama bear in those moments. You protected your kids, you shielded your kids. You still, even though you felt you were a broken vessel, you still poured so much love into your kids. Like, you still did everything right, even though one aspect, which is the physical, the roof over the head, the stability, I didn't have that, but I still did everything else right. Now, yes, stability is important. However, the other three aspects that I have been persistent in developing and maintaining within my kids, those are the things, those are the skills and the tools that's going to help them to navigate through life. And so for me, I just was like, so you really are a dope parent. You really are an amazing mother. And your kids are wise, and you've given them the necessary tools that they're going to need. Because at any age, a kid can experience things. And so if I hadn't been present in providing them with building and evolving spiritually, emotionally, and mentally, then they won't have the skills to be able to handle them whenever mom is not around, because they still have to go to school, they go places in the public, and I ask questions. I always ask questions. And so once again, when I'm asking questions and I'm getting responses of ways that they've handled things, I'm just so proud of me because I know I taught them that, and I'm proud of them because they're so little and they understand how to handle tough situations.
I think that's dope because sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit as moms. As single moms, we don't give ourselves enough credit. Society will say, single moms, and they have the stigma attached to it. You hear single mom and then boom, here comes a stigma. But
Yeah.
honestly, if we evaluate the situation, not many single moms desire to be a single mom. But at the end of the
No,
day,
I
you
picked this life.
and then the ones that do, God bless you. Um,
Right.
but for many single moms that I know and myself included, it's not something that is, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this by myself. It takes a whole other nature in you to be able to, as you said at the beginning, first of all, reparent yourself while
Mm-hmm.
parenting your children, while
Yep.
providing in all of those categories mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and being present for your own self and what
Yes.
you need, and making sure that you're resting and making sure that you're taking time to be away and all of those things. It's so many nuances to
Yes.
parenting that
Yes.
if you do not stop and say, girl, dude, for my fathers, dude, you're doing it. You're
Mm.
doing it. You will be
Yeah.
flushed under the weight of what you feel like you're supposed to do. And in one of the episodes, I talk about, a parenting plan, what that looks like, a vision of what you desire,
Yeah.
parenting to look like. But you also have to learn that there are going to be pivots in it. And so, what I heard through parts of your story is that you had to pivot. You had to pivot in some of those pockets. And
Often.
yeah, often we have to pivot because there's nothing that's going to be perfect. I love structure, I love to plan. But at the end of the day, if something inserts itself in that day, in that week, in that month that I did not plan for, I can't sit here and have a whole fit because it did not
Yeah.
go the way that I desired for it to go. I have to step back,
Yeah.
pause, because we do need a
Mm-hmm.
Selah, because again, we're human. I always
Yes.
want parents to understand that although you are in the role of parenting, you are still very much a man and a woman, and you're going to
Right.
feel. And so allow yourself to feel what you need to feel and then restructure. And so thank you for sharing with us just some of the pivot pockets that you had in
Mm.
parenting. Now I kind of want to just curve this over now into the woman. Dominique, talk to us about what womanhood has looked like for Dominique. As a little girl, did you envision where you are now? Kind of share with us a little bit of that journey.
Ooh, the woman Dominique. Ugh, Jesus, I don't even know where to start with that. I don't even- because I'm a. It's listen. I've always known that I was a lot over the top. And listen, so maybe I should start in childhood. So in childhood, which is funny. I think it's so funny because it's tied into my business. Um, Once again, I didn't have the best childhood. My great aunts and my they did the best they could. But it just wasn't ideal, you know. And so the child Dominique had to find ways to escape. And so the way I escaped was using colors. And so construction paper, stencils, colors, markers, color pencils. And so I just turned to art. I do not know how to draw, but I had stencils. And so I would create a lot of artwork, in my walls in my room was literally filled with artwork that I created, because that's what helped me to get away. It's how I got my anger out. It's how I got my frustration out. It's how I got, my hurt out, my disappointment out, my fears out. That was my way of I guess that was my introduction into mental health as a kid, because I understood that for me, seeing different colors, it helped me to escape. Um High school, I got into fashion. um and really I had to work. I started working when I was 16, and so once again, it wasn't an ideal situation, so I started working. Well, no, I used to do hair as a kid. I used to do hair, and so that's how I was able to provide then. But then once I got in high school and I got my first job at a grocery store, that's when I was able to get involved in fashion, and I love fashion. But high school wasn't making that much. Back then, minimum wage was $5.25, so my checks probably would be like $80. you know. But then college,
But $80 back then is totally different
was
from
I
$80 now.
girl shucks. Ooh, Jesus Christ. So I got to college, and although I attended a PWI, it was a culture shock to me. It was a culture shock to me. But still, every stage and every step in my life, I use colors. Um, as a child, the same way I processed fear, hurt, anger, disappointment, pain, I use colors to overcome. And so that's really what I've done throughout my entire life. And so now the woman Dominique, I have structured it to where I understand that colors is a part of psychology. And the reason why I thought I had an obsession with colors, but that's not what it is. I didn't know then that I understand now that it's because psychology has always been at the forefront of my heart, and I didn't notice it. But I have to have colors in my life. And the reason why I have to have colors in my life is because they help me to determine who I am and how I feel at the moment. And depending on what color I'm interested at that moment, it lets me know what personality characteristics I need to enhance or remove. And the reason why is because I found out in grad school that there is such thing as color psychology, and that colors have positive and negative meanings. And so the woman Dominique heavily relies on colors, because I get to be myself through fashion, but at the same time, I get to understand others. I get to understand my kids. Is You would be amazed at how I can identify personality traits in myself and in others depending on what they're wearing, what color they're wearing. And so I didn't have a lot of confidence as a kid, but I did as a teenager. Um, I think around the age of 16 is when I started to be real bold and real confident. And I can't live my life without it now. I can't. Confidence is my safe place. Colors are my safe place. And so I structure my life around those two things. Um, Once again, we're healing my inner child, and to go deeper into the color situation. For the longest, until I was like in my late 30s, um, my favorite color was turquoise, and I never knew why.
Mm-hmm.
And so in psychology, I learned that turquoise meant it's a color for inner healing. And so I hadn't entered
Mm.
the active process yet. And so once I entered the active healing process and I healed, my favorite color changed. I am a pink girl now. And what I learned by being a pink girl is because I never had a chance to be a little girl, to wear the
Mm.
cute dress, to have the princess themed rooms or the princess themed parties. I can do it as an adult. So the woman Dominique is a powerhouse, but she has to have her confidence and her colors.
I love that. I do, because we've talked a lot about, that inner child and what that looks like. And, for me, when we were introduced to one another, I didn't realize, about the whole color scheme and things of that nature. And
Nobody does.
I started to do that research, like, okay,
Yeah,
Ashley, why do you like the colors that you like? Why do you deem this as your favorite color? All of those different things. And it's
but red
been,
is a powerful color, and you are powerful, so that makes
yeah,
sense.
but the crazy thing is, y'all, 2021 was the first,
Mhm.
and I've been getting my nails done for a very, very, very long time. And 2021 was the first year that I ever wore red nails. I never liked red on my
Oh,
nails, but something changed in 2021, and baby, that red was popping, and I
because
wore that red.
our religious background, we were taught to think that red was the color of Jezebel.
Ooh, child, I didn't even associate it with that. It was just like, it's just so loud. It's just so
Red,
loud. Yes.
girl, we were conditioned since maybe you don't remember, but we had, because that's like an international thing in the black community. Red is the color of Jezebel, and if you wearing her, you are a loose woman.
Child. Well, I
So
was I
people
was free.
red. People stay away from red nails and red dresses and red lips because they don't want to be associated with Jezebel. I'm telling you, you just don't remember,
I
or
don't
maybe
remember.
the child
Child,
they
I wear
associate.
red lipstick now. Red is one of my favorites. I remember buying some red heels, and they was cute too. I think it was like my 23rd birthday. I had on this little black dress, and I
Mhm.
had these red pumps, and I got them from Victoria's Secret. I'm so mad that they don't sell shoes anymore, but that's neither here nor there. But yes, healing that inner child is so important, and it does
Mhm.
take a lot of work in parenting,
A
but
lot.
it's not impossible. It's
No, it's
not
not.
impossible. And
Mhm.
one of the biggest things that I have been learning on this journey, even for myself, of reparenting the little girl, and even in therapy, my therapist, she would say, where are you now? Because you have
Mhm.
to enter into these safe spaces, and I'm like, girl,
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm on the beach, I'm in the sand, I'm playing, because again, it's something that you said, never having that environment to do that in childhood. Now in adulthood, you have to be intentional with
Mhm.
creating these environments to
You
do
do.
that. And
You
so
do.
the youngest one, he likes to be outside. I mean, I always say I don't know what part of heaven God brought him from, but he came to bust some things open in my life. I literally say that he pushed purpose out of me, because I
Yeah.
found myself in a complacent state, and I was also just in a state of discontentment, honestly. The relationship, was toxic, and I was going to settle. Whew, I was going to settle. But God, he was like, no, baby, I didn't
Yeah.
build you that way. I didn't build
Right.
you that way. And so you're going to struggle, but I'm with you. And I think that for those of us who do believe in God, and even if you don't, just hear the wisdom in this, that it's important to rely on the source. For me, I know
It is.
for you, Dominique, God is the ultimate source, and everything else
It,
around us is just a resource. But it's
yes.
important. Hear me when I say this, parents. It's important that you tap into those resources, those people that are
Mm-hmm.
around you that can uplift you, encourage you, nurture you, pour
Mm-hmm.
into you, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
physically, emotionally, financially, spiritually, whatever that is. Don't
Mm-hmm.
think because you've had a pocket in parenthood in your life, honestly, that you are removed from receiving God's grace, His mercy, His love by way of people. I wanted to just
Right.
insert that message there because I want you all to understand her story is very powerful. It's also full of resilience, but there's someone that's going to listen that's going to be like, I resonate with that, but I don't know what it looks like. I don't know how to really tap into community. Dominique, if you could just, share a little bit about what it looks like to tap into community, the types of community, whether it's mental health, whatever that looks
Mm-hmm.
like. Share something with the people, please.
Yes, absolutely. I will always advocate for therapy. I always will. You have to have someone that you're not connected to that'll be non-biased. And so I will always advocate for therapy. And I am a coach as well. So let me just say this. Getting a coach is not the same thing. You need an actual licensed therapist. And I'm not talking about a pastor. And listen, I love God, but I'm not talking about a pastor. If your pastor does not have a clinical background, that's not the person you need to be going to. And I'm not saying that can't be a support. I'm just saying I advocate for counseling. I advocate for therapy. You need a licensed therapist, a non-biased person who does not know you as a support system. And you can have your pastor as a support to get biblical counseling. You can have friends, you can have family. But it is important. It was a tough lesson for me because I always, even though I had a big family, I always felt like I grew up by myself because that being set apart stuff is real, you know? And so the hardest thing for me, because that built up a lot of pride within me to where I will succeed. Like I would listen. Ashley, I would put so much energy into succeeding because I felt like I couldn't fail because I didn't have a community. And so when I did, so say, fail, the hardest thing for me to do was open my mouth and ask for help. And I had no choice because I didn't have anything. And so I would suggest that people do the total opposite. Build connections and build relationships in your everyday life. That way, when something happens, your community is going to back you. Now, I did have a community, but I didn't really get a backing. Most people turn their backs on me when I lost everything, but I understand because I'm private. I'm very private. And so I'm not speaking negatively about the community that turned their backs on me because I look put together, So even in losing everything, I didn't literally had nothing. I didn't look like I lost everything. And so I just learned a tough lesson that my pride stopped me from having authentic people that really wanted to step up to the plate when I had nothing. So get you a team. I have a team now. You have pastors that can pour into you spiritually. You have therapists that can assist you with whatever childhood trauma you've had and helping you to connect the dots from childhood, adolescence, adulthood, and who you are now. You can have a coach that's assisting you as well. You can have like people in your connections, like maybe other entrepreneurs, or if you're in a career, other people that's in the same career as in you. You can have family supports, but what you need is a true support system, because what you're going to learn is I don't care how tough you are. I don't care how strong you are. I don't care how well prepared you are. I don't care how organized you are. When the rug gets pulled from under you, you're going to need a support system. And I don't necessarily mean like the physical rug. You may not lose everything, you know, but what if you're at a time in your life where you're not your best mentally and the rug gets pulled out? Who's going to pour back into you? You may not lose everything mentally. What if you are grieving? You lose somebody that was in your support system, community group. You're going to need somebody to pour back into you. You're going to need to understand that, maybe celebrate the person's life versus grieving their death. It's so many things that you're going to need. But the whole point I'm trying to make is, before life gets challenging, make sure at the highest of the highs in your life, you have a solid support system in place, because we all need community. We are human beings, meaning we need other people in order to be complete, whether we want to admit it or not. We need other people. We can't do life by ourselves. Get you a strong and solid community and support system in place, so that when the rug gets pulled from under you in any area of your life, you're able to be refilled and get back on track.
Yes, listen, community is everything. I always talk about this, especially
Yep,
in the community that I have built under the Parent Network's Mama's Lounge membership. Like, we need relationships. We were
we
designed, we
do.
were wired to be relational human beings. And through the things in life, sometimes that wiring gets a little fried, and we have
It
to
does.
learn how to rewire that area, that component of us. And so, as Dominique said, I am an advocate for Jesus and therapy. They go hand in hand. If you don't believe in Jesus, get you some therapy. And my
Yes.
prayer is that you would find him because he loves you, number one. And there's nothing that you can do, this is in Romans, that can separate you from his love. And so,
Hello.
here at the Parent Network, we're building community for parents, not just for moms, but for dads as well. And
Yeah.
I just love, the building phase and the journey of that. And so now we're going to hear ways that you can connect with Dominique, because as you heard, she is a licensed clinical mental health counselor, and she is also a confidence coach. And so she's going to tell us how we can follow her, how you can tap in to the resources that she has. But before we do that, Dominique, I'm going to ask you this one question. Give us just one thing that you can share, that you can leave with mom and dad on this pocket pivot of parenthood. Share one thing.
Mm, be vulnerable with your kids.
Bing, 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 bing.
And the reason why I'm saying that is because both male and female parent, be vulnerable with your kids. A lot of us think that because they're kids, they don't know things, they don't sense things, they don't understand things. Our kids know us.
Yeah,
And so we're having a bad day, we're having the best day of our lives. Our kids see us pivot. They see it. And so even if they don't ask questions, what you will notice is your kids will try to match who you are,
hmm,
to try to stay in alignment with who you are, because they don't know what's happening, but they know something has happened, you know? And so be vulnerable and have conversations
yeah,
so that your kids can understand. And this is a part of the spiritual, emotional, and mental development. Don't hide from them what you're experiencing.
yeah,
Be vulnerable. And the reason why this is so important is because it teaches them how to maintain and manage tough or positive situations, because we are we multidimensional beings. And so if they're watching us and they understand what something shift enough to know that they need to shift so that they can be in alignment with us, then we need to be intentional
Yeah.
about teaching them about the different emotions and how they should feel when they experience certain emotions, and how to process certain emotions when they feel it, and create steps to be able to overcome in the tough situations, but also create a welcoming space to positive things so that we don't downplay the great
Yeah.
things. So my biggest thing is be vulnerable, because they understand. They understand. They're resilient. They, it's just their age, but they're people too. So just be open and honest with those kids,
Yes.
because they don't leave them blinded to your experiences. It's not about um being in grown folks business. They're tiny humans, and they go through stuff as well. And so they need to be taught how to overcome. They need to be taught how to process. They need to be taught what to do when they're feeling sad. They need to be
Yes.
taught how to process being happy. Is just be vulnerable, and lead by example, but make sure you're being intentional about teaching them.
I love that the mental health expert, y'all, was in the building on today, because it is important that we are vulnerable with our children. Leading through vulnerability is one of the strongest qualities that you can insert into the life of your child. And even if you
Yes.
never experienced it, even if you have not seen what it looks like, know, emphasis on know, that it is
No.
within you to do it. We live in such a technology era where we can literally Google something and learn. YouTube University. There are free courses that you can take on Coursera, where it's all type of resources that we can tap into now as parents, to model a different behavior, model something that is changing the trajectory of your life first and of your children's life. On the last episode in season 1, I talked about experiencing grief and allowing
Mm.
your children to experience grief and what that looks like. And so she just tapped into so many things that has been talked about in the previous season. And I am so thankful for you, Dominique, for just coming on, sharing your story, sharing your expertise. Now, tell us how we can follow you, how we can find you.
Okay, so I am on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Instagram, I am the chic, that's CHIC underscore therapist. And on Facebook, I have the chic therapist. On TikTok, I have the chic therapist. So you can find me those places as well. But you can also follow my personal page, Dominique Haughton, as well. So those are the social media that I have. Now I do have a Twitter, but I can't change my name, and I'm not about to create no whole new page. But I was in. I'm too embarrassed to tell y'all what my handle is because I made it when I was in college,
Oh,
undergrad. So I.
listen, I have an email address that I made when I was in high school, and it's still very much active today. Cutie Pie 2986. Don't ask me what the 2986 stands for, because it was just something that was there. Don't trip. We understand. All of her information is going to be in the description of this episode, so you can follow her. You can head over to the platforms that she's on and connect with her. Again, Dominique, we thank you so much for being on today's episode. Y'all already know what time it is. It's outro time, okay? If you want to connect with the Parent Network, the link for all of the resources will be linked in the description. There's so much that's going to be rolling out under the Parent Network, because I have a heart for parents. I have a heart for building community. It's important that we stay connected in this journey of parenthood, because it is one of the most beautifully crafted, chaotic relationships that you can ever experience. But it is so much better when you have people that can relate to you. So until next time, y'all.